Welcome to the Lyrically Speaking Podcast, where we dissect, dig deep, and discover the lyrics to some of the most popular songs ever written. We ask, what are they really telling us? What can we learn? Or unlearn in some cases. I'm Louise.
And I'm Omar.
And here on the Lyrically Speaking Podcast, we share our thoughts on how the broader themes from these songs relate to our real everyday lives. So if you love music, if you enjoy critical thinking and reflecting on life's bigger themes while having a laugh with friends, then this is the place for you.
So hello people!
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to the Lyrically Speaking Podcast. We are the
everybody.
podcast that delves deep into the wordplay behind some of our favourite songs.
Yep.
Now, this is our very first episode. Louise, how are you feeling?
You know what? I'm feeling good, but you obviously know, Omar, that I have a terrible cold. I was getting a bit cocky because I was like, I've not caught a cold. It's missed me. Everyone else is getting sick and I'm fine. And then just as I was getting cocky, it came. So, and it's quite a bad one. But You know what I said? We agreed to record our first episode today. And I'm just going to push through, going to make it happen. So forgive me, folks, if I sound a bit bunged up or you hear me coughing sometimes.
She's such a trooper.
Yep, I'm trying.
As I said, we're out here, our first episode of our Lyrically Speaking podcast. So, because it's our first episode, we wanted to talk about something that unites us all. I think the vast majority of us. And the topic that we're kind of going to touch upon here is breakups and exes. We've all got one. We've all been there.
One or a few.
Well, let's not go into that. Let's not go into that. We've all got one and we've all been there. So we'll keep it there. But this song actually is about breakups and exes. And the song that we're going to talk about has really touched the hearts of millions. I mean, I'm talking...
It has, yeah.
Right?
It's a big one. It's a big song.
So a little bit about the song. It was released in 2011. It was actually a last-minute addition to the album titled 21. So I'm kind of giving it away now.
Giving a bit away.
This song would go on to receive 2 Grammys for Record of the Year and Best Pop Solo Performance. And it topped the charts in many, many countries. UK, USA, Canada, the whole thing. So the song is pretty iconic. And I think because I said 21, we probably all guessed it. Have you guessed it?
Yep.
It? So I'm talking about Someone Like
You
by the
Adele.
Not get in. Because I said 21. We all know she'd be naming her albums with her age. So 21, she put this song on it. And she was writing the song about an ex-boyfriend. She says it was a final letter to her ex. Now, it's an all right song, you know? It's got a lovely melody. I know my aunties and that was crying over the song. A lot of people getting deeply emotional when she performs it. We've all seen that performance. I can't remember if it was the Grammys, but she cried after she performed and she got a standing ovation. But you know, when you really dig into what she's saying, I found it.
There's a few questions.
I had a few questions. I was like, Adele, girl, I don't know if, this is really the healthiest approach. So let's go into it and let's
begin.
See. Let's dig in and let's see. So Adele says, I heard that you'll settle down, that you found a girl and you're married now. I heard that your dreams came true. Guess she gave you things I didn't give to you.
That's a bit sad, that line, isn't it?
Pretty sad. And also, well, we will dig into it after. She says, old friend, Why are you so shy? Ain't like you to hold back or hide from the light.
I think we find out why later on he's being shy.
Well,
he might be being shy.
exactly, and hiding from the light. Then she said, and this is the part, she says, I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited, but I couldn't stay away. I couldn't fight it. I had hoped you'd see my face and that you'd be reminded that for me, it isn't over, right? And we all know then that the chorus says, never mind, I'll find someone like you. And the someone like you is the main part of the song.
Yeah.
So, I have my views, but Louise, I'm going to, after I've read that out, tell me what comes to mind as we were going through those lyrics.
Well, the line that really stood out for me, well, there's a few, but as you were reading it, that line that says, I guess she gave you things I didn't give to you. It's quite sad, isn't it? Because it sounds like Adele feels she's failed.
That's right.
Good enough. And he's found someone better. But you know what? When breakups happen, it doesn't necessarily mean that you weren't good enough and that the next person is better. There's so many factors that can lead to it, such as timing, just incompatibility, realizing that you maybe don't have those same values, you're not headed in the right direction together. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're not good enough or one person's better than the other. But clearly this relationship left her feeling like she wasn't good enough. So that does raise some questions in terms of how did he break up or how did she break up? We don't know who instigated the breakup, right? But, and then obviously some other things, stand out. The main line, to be honest, which I think we both raise our eyebrows, is turning up out of the blue, uninvited.
Turning up out the blue. And that was the one for me. That was the one for me, because I hear you where you say, because she said, guess she gave you things I didn't give to her. To be honest, it's real sad. And the reality is, breakups don't have to be sad. They can actually be positive. And I think that if you've broken up with someone and you found yourself in a new relationship, you most times you want to believe that that was a positive move because it's led you to actually what was meant for you, right? But she says, I hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited. Now that one freaked me out because you think about it. This man, she said he's hiding from the limelight. It's like, listen, this man is picked up his good money, thrown a good party. He's good woman. He's got his wife by his side. He's new woman, because you said you heard he's settled down. So he's settled now. He's got his good partner throwing his party. And you saying you hate to turn up out of the blue uninvited. That says stalker.
Yeah, a bit stalkerish. It is a bit stalkerish.
Stalking your ex, because people say, oh, but I needed the closure. No. You should not have to go to those lengths to get the closure. You need to sit down and work on yourself and accept that the relationship is over, right? You have to accept that it's over. It shouldn't take you busting into man's party, uninvited, gate crashing, for you to be like, oh, okay, now I realize it's really true. And what that says, when you take those measures, is there's still this glimmer of hope in your mind, because she even says, and hope you'd see my face. Imagine, we both married.
A bit questionable.
Imagine you're at a party with your husband and some woman comes in out the blue. You don't know this.
Yes. Says, see my face.
And it's not over for me. That's highly problematic.
She's obviously not dealing with the breakup well.
100%.
Let's just put it that way.
100%.
And yes, it has triggered her to start to engage in stalker-like behaviors. Let's put it that way. I think, she is, if we look at it from the objective of the guy, okay, because I know when we sing this song and we listen to this song, we're feeling Adele's pain.
Yes,
but if we look at it from the objective of her ex, she is crossing some boundaries.
100%.
And, and it's probably not helping Adele either.
No.
To
Exactly.
to keep chasing after the relationship.
100%.
And I think, a broader level as well, boundaries and respecting the other person's boundaries in any breakup are important.
Yeah.
Or is important. So, and then again, if we look at it from the new wife's perspective, it's not great, is it?
It's not
great that she's showing up uninvited. She actually says she was not invited.
We didn't want you, honey. You were not on the list, honey.
She wasn't on the list, but she came anyway. Okay,
and put on a good dress.
She did, but she does say that she just couldn't fight it. She couldn't stay away. She just wanted that. She said she wants him to see her face so that he can be reminded that she's still struggling. And again, she wants to guilt trip him.
Yeah.
Because she wants him to see, look at the pain I'm going through. Exactly. You might be happy, but I want you to know that I'm still struggling. 100%. So again, not really emotionally handling this breakup.
No. And also, when we talk about who do we think had the issues in the relationship, you see, if I just look at this perspective she's bringing, this compulsion that she had to go, that he has to see her pain, the word manipulation comes
a little bit,
a little bit.
If we really do stand back and think about it, it is a bit.
We get that vibe. But overall, I think what the overall thing is here is not accepting that the relationship is over.
So lyrically speaking, is that what we're saying this is about?
I think so.
Essentially.
Lyrically speaking, I think essentially we're talking about someone who's not able to handle moving on, not moving on from breakups in a healthy, functional way. I think lyrically speaking, that's what this is about. I don't think it should take you busting into a party and seeing someone, in order to move on. I think there have to be healthier ways of moving on from a relationship. Indeed. So I was looking into this and I asked my good friend, my good friend Chat, because Chat gives me a lot of info. And I just was looking into what are the things that, people could do, or what sorts of measures should we take in order to move on from relationships. And one of the key things that Chat talked about was acknowledging the breakup, accepting that it's broken down, and not remaining in a place of denial, because that place of denial and hope prolongs the healing process. We need to heal when we break up. It's hurtful. Let's not deny that it is very, very hurtful.
Definitely. Yeah.
But we need to not be in denial. Face it, girl. It's done. It's over. Now you have to look to moving forward. The other thing that Chat talks about is avoiding having an unrealistic view of the relationship. So this thing where
that can happen.
Yeah, never mind. I'll find someone like you.
Yes, yeah.
Well, no,
obviously not. Right? He wasn't the right person, so she shouldn't be looking for someone like
100%
necessarily. Right?
Exactly. If it was so good, y'all would still be making the magic happen. You wouldn't be thinking back about the glory days. She even says the glory days. So if it was that good, it would still be popping off, and it's not. So
how can we stop from putting those past relationships on a pedestal? Because it's very easy to do that when we're not in it anymore, isn't it? Yeah. And that's how people can get into breaking up, getting back together again, and then they're in those yo-yo relationships that actually aren't toxic. I mean, something that I think could be helpful is to keep a journal of the things she didn't like the relationship. Write it down. Yeah.
You've got to
write it down. And then when you are feeling like, oh, actually, maybe this was a great relationship and I should go back, you just read that list.
Whip it out.
And share it. Share it with friends and people who you want to hold you accountable.
And I think that word accountable, I think that's quite key. I think sharing, even if it's just one person that you share with. And, one thing, I've been seeing this a lot on the internet streets about women and accountability. There seems to be this vibe out there that women don't like to take accountability for their actions. And there's a lot of memes going around. So clearly this is what the men be thinking about us. But I think that point about accountability, taking responsibility, being accountable for the part you played, understanding that, again, there was, it was two people not compatible. You played your role, and sharing with other people, being honest and open about the part you played, the things that didn't go well. I think all of that will be really helpful. I think the more transparent and honest we can be about the failures in the relationship on both parts, the easier it will be for us to move forward and to also get a good perspective. There's a lot of, we talk about this thing a lot, don't we? Couples goals. And I think couples goals, #couples goals, can also push us into a place where we've presented something to the world. And sometimes what we present, we can almost start to believe. We can start to believe our own hype. And so I think
it's not real.
It's not real. It's not real. And I think that's something that we can be challenged by as women as well.
I think from a young age, women are sold fantasy, aren't they? And so, especially when it comes to romantic relationships.
Yeah.
So really what we're talking about is detaching a bit from the fantasy and connecting more to reality.
Focusing on reality, yeah.
Sounds like we're unhinged. We're not, but, I think being rooted in the real of the relationship and the real of the situation, processing it in the sense of the bigger picture of life as well. Definitely. When emotion is attached and there is a sense of a literal attachment, it's hard to detach. But that accountability we're speaking about, trying to be rooted in the reality of the relationship, the reason that you broke up, and remembering that as much as possible, and thinking of the bigger picture in that, there's still more of life to come.
100%.
And you don't know what that will bring. It's not the end. It's actually the beginning of a new journey. And to be hopeful in that, and to think, actually good things can come. Someone not like you, but someone
new,
better, someone new and better, can come along.
Yeah, and I think that someone better, also that's the highlight, because you can go the other way. You can say it's someone like you, or you could spend your whole life hating a person, or, talking negatively about a person, being toxic towards a person because of a breakup. That's also unhealthy and unrealistic, because again, there's a part that takes two to tango. There's a part that we play. Whenever there's a relationship, there's always two parts. There's two versions, and then there's the truth. And like you're saying, we've got to focus on the truth, the negatives and positives on both sides. And then we move forward. And Adele, that was 21. Like you said, she was a baby. 21. There's a lot of life left for living after that age, right? So, and she's now moved on. She's moved on, found someone, she got married.
She might even have been younger than 21, actually.
Exactly.
She probably wrote it when she was 19 or 20. 100%. Of course, you're going to process breakups that way.
Exactly.
And it gave us a global song that no matter where it plays, you'll know it.
You'll know it, and it resonates to some degree. But as we're saying, let's take a realistic approach. Girls, don't turn up at the guy's house. Don't.
Yes, no.
Don't turn up
especially uninvited.
Yeah, don't do that. That's not a good look.
It's slightly, could get the police called on you.
100, but look, you don't want a bad rep on top of everything else. If you're already down and out, you don't need, to get that, have it get going criminal. We don't need that. So,
do you think there's a little bit of lack of self-awareness in the processing of the breakup? Because she says, why are you so shy? When she goes up uninvited, and obviously it's because, well, it's not that he's shy, he's just probably scared.
It starts to sound unhinged. I'll be honest with you. Part does. It's like, it's not like you to hide from the limelight. It just reminds you of those films where you just got that wacky fatal attraction lady. She's like, don't hide from me, don't hide from me. It does, seem to lack some self-awareness. Like, what you're doing should be normal and accepted because you guys had a really wonderful relationship. But in any world, like you say, Lou, if someone turns up to your house uninvited, whether you know them or not, you're going to be a bit surprised by that. And they expect there'd be some surprise.
Yeah. And she, you know, she's reading it as he's shy, but actually scared, isn't it?
Yeah. Terrified.
You know, this links to what we were saying before, which is just generally, you know, bringing this to a broader topic, the importance of after breakups, doing some healthy self-reflection.
Yeah.
We shouldn't beat ourselves up. We shouldn't descend into what Adele is sharing, which is that she's not good enough. You know, that's the sense she's living in the song. That's not healthy. But so that we can go into the next relationship better equipped with a good perspective, it is healthy to think, well, what role did I play or what could I have done better if it was just picked a better person or handled the beginning stages of the relationship better. Maybe I ran into it, maybe I didn't ask the right question. It's really important to do that self-reflection rather than jump into the next thing.
It.
You know,
100%. No, and that's true. And you know, it's funny because again, I was watching a funny reel out on the internet streets, and it was this guy. I don't know. It was like an American talk show, and this lady was talking, and they was about deadbeat fathers, and this guy was like, "Well, why are all these women not taking responsibility for getting with these deadbeat guys?" It was like,
okay,
yeah, he was,
okay.
The meme was the guy was like how he could get out of his car when he's late for work because of the radio show. To summarize what he was saying, it was that women need to also take responsibility for their choices, the types of choices they make. And sometimes the choices that we make are quite, you know, it's challenging to reflect on it. And I guess this is where I'm going with this. When you talk about reflecting, sometimes doing that self-reflection, especially if the relationship has turned particularly sour, is really hard. But I think that going through that hard process helps.
It's worth it.
The healing. It's worth it. It's worth it because you come out stronger. You come out with a better sense of what you need, what you won't tolerate. Like we talk about boundaries and standards. You come out with a better sense of your boundaries, your standards, what you're going to tolerate and what you're not. And in this, you know, out there now, there's all this stuff about flags, red flag, everything's a red flag. When you do the reflection, you get a better sense of what really is a red flag. Maybe some of the things that you were avoiding before, you realize actually that's not so bad. These are the characters.
These are the real things. And I think one of the things that is most underestimated when it comes to relationships and finding the right person is values. It's establishing our own values first. And for me, that's part of taking the responsibility 100%. That you spoke about, Omar. And it's understanding first what their values are. It's not the images on social media and making sure we look good and making sure that we're popular and liked and all those other things. It's not really, this might be controversial, but it's not necessarily just going on how we feel. Or how they make us feel at a superficial level. It really is about who are they at their core, and that is so much seen by and reflected in their values, and we'll only be able to understand that if we are first rooted in our own. 100%. Who are we? Who are our values? What are our values? What is fundamentally most important to us? And are we also living those values first? You know, because it's easy to say, oh, this guy is not loyal and honest. These are important values to me. But then we're not loyal and honest ourselves to friends or to people around us. So that is ultimately the most fundamental thing. It's the beginning. And then everything else can flow from there. Of course, it's important that he makes you feel good and all of that. But taking responsibility is first being anchored in who we are, what are our values, are we living them, and then what are the values we want our partner to have, what are the shared values we want them to have.
And I think that's the point. Shared values, understanding our values, understanding who we are is how you build lifelong relationships. And I think the point is, and you made such a good point, you know, we want loyalty in partners and romantic relationships, but what do we reflect in our friendships, in our family relationships, our everyday relationships? And that's where you really see your values. And ultimately, I think even in another person, that's where you can really see what those values are and how, you know, they're played out. But
totally, or like, I always say that if we're a good friend, we'll be a good romantic partner.
100%.
Because the foundation of all romantic relationships is friendship.
It's friendship.
And I think sometimes we see them as separate. We see our friends over here and our romantic partners over there. Right. But in reality, if we have practiced good friendship with the people around us, even, you know, with family as well, family members, you know, literal friends, then when it does come to a romantic relationship, it's not challenging, it's not hard. Right. We will have used those relationships to reflect as well on 100%. Where our blind spots are, where our weaknesses are. So I say, let's start with being a good friend to our literal friends and, you know, family members as well. And I think that is a precursor to then being a good friend in a romantic relationship, and knowing again where we need to reflect and do better.
100%. Girls, when you get your man, don't dash your friends. Don't be that girl.
Oh, yes.
So this is what happens, because then you be crying about someone like you because you ain't got no one to share with.
Yes.
And they ain't got no one to pull you out of your shit. So don't be dashing.
Exactly.
Don't be dashing your girlfriend. When the man comes along, don't be doing that, because then you're going to end up putting on your fine dress and breaking into that party. Don't do it.
Because to be honest, if Adele had her friends, then they would not have let her show up to the party uninvited.
You wouldn't let your
They would not have let
like that. No.
Don't ditch your friends. And, you know, I think when you do ditch your friends, it can be a sign that you are overly dependent on the relationship. You've allowed it to consume you. And again, it brings us back to values. Have we really considered our values if we're allowing this relationship to become our everything? I mean, we grew up watching films that had lines like "you complete me" and all this stuff in relationships. So I understand why we can become so consumed with relationships. But really, you know, to your point, Omar, such a great point, holding on to friendships, maintaining good relationships with family, regardless of the romantic relationship we're in, they can give us that perspective. They can help us reflect. They can give us honesty. They can be our accountability system and help us take responsibility when we need to. So they are actually key to helping our romantic relationships go well.
100%.
And of course, it's with friends and family that you trust, right? We don't.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we have to add that, because not everyone is out there, you know, with best intentions at heart. Let's put it that way. So thank you, Adele. We're gonna say thank you, Adele, because you really shared your heart in this song. We felt the emotion. We felt that, you know, what you were going through, and you've given us quite a lot of food for thoughts because of these lyrics right here.
So what are our top takeaways?
Top takeaways. Okay, so number 1, don't go to the house uninvited. No, that's well, actually, no, I'm gonna put that as number 1, because if you ever get the impulse to do that, don't do it, right? If you ever get the impulse, you're gonna show up at this guy's house, don't do it. So that's number 1. Do not do that, right? Number 2. Well, Lou, I'll let you give a number 2.
I'd say leverage your network, your support system of friends and family that you trust to help you gain perspective, to help you process the breakup in the relationship in a real way rather than a completely emotionally fueled way, so that you can look at it more as an observer rather than being emotionally entrenched in the situation. You can stand back and look at the relationship in a balanced way. And that means, I guess I'm kind of also adding number 3, Omar. That means that a fundamental precursor to being successful in your romantic relationships is to invest in building strong friendships and family
100%,
relationships so you can have that network around you and be successful in that relationship that's to come.
100%.
Any other takeaways?
I would say the final one would be knoweth thyself. So we talk about know who you are, know what you stand for. If you need to spend time, I've heard of ladies that do this stuff, and I don't know how I feel all the way about it, but it might help. Dating themselves, you take yourself out to places, you explore different things by yourself, see how you feel about it. I don't know if you have to go all that way, but I do think spending time writing things down, connecting with, your inner thoughts, your inner values, what you like, what you don't like. A lot of us kind of spend our time, especially with this social media era, we just jump from thing to thing to thing. And we never really take the time to reflect on how do things make us feel. Even in our friendships, sometimes we could just be dragged along, on a path just because we're people pleasing. We're just going with the flow. But how do things really make us feel? What are the values we hold dear? And I think if we have that sense of self, that is the biggest foundation then to making sure that we are connecting with the right people. And that's obviously then the bedrock for building a healthy relationship with the vehicle of other friends and family and that relationship and that accountability. And the final stop that if you want to do something compulsive, don't do it. You're just...
Oh dear. Poor Adele.
Oh, bless her. No, we can't.
No judgment.
Listen, she ain't poor Adele,
she's not actually. She's very rich.
She said she went to the house and stalked the people, and everyone said, "Oh, yeah, you're speaking to me." So
poor Adele back then, she must have been really going through it. She must have been really going through it when she shows up. Yeah,
and showed up. Bless her. All right, so
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Listeners, we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Lyrically Speaking Podcast. We're so grateful for all of you, our listeners. We don't want this episode to be the end of us connecting. So tell us what your key takeaways were. They're probably different to ours, so we love to hear them. You can tweet us with your takeaways or leave them as a comment on our social media post or our YouTube video for this episode. We are at Lyrically Speaking Podcast across all platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, except X, where you can find us as at Lyrically Pod. You can find Louise on Twitter and Instagram as at Carlo Coaching, that's Carlo with a K, and me, Omar, as at Omar.fam.